This episode of Warchant is sponsored by McMahon Cove Gilly. You can find them on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
Fault. One of the worst cussings I ever took from Rose was at Gunnersville one night. Josh has his heart problem down there at Gunners. You remember that, Josh?
Yes,
I can see him on the sideline.
Shane has taken me into because he got to get him cooled off. So
2001.
Shane goes and takes Josh into the field house to try to get him cooled down and get his heart from racing so bad. Well, Marcellus, Dirty, goes down with the cramp. Well, Shane ain't out there. So I take off out there, and Marcellus is laying on the other side. I'm about to hash mark on the other side, and he's got a cramp. And I said, Dirty, you got to get up. Coach, he's hurt. He said, you got to get up now. You got to get up. And we're laying. I'm trying to rub the cramp out, and I'm rubbing. We get back to the sideline, and Rose just blistered me. We don't lay on the field with the cramp. Get him up. I don't go into all the words he said. Yes, sir. I got you. I told Dirty, I said, don't you ever lay on the field again.
I'm taking a bunch of him from Rose. The year after, it would have been after your senior year, you would have been a junior. So, we opened up with Scottsboro and got beat. Well, I was helping Chark for Schrader. And so we go down there and we get beat.
Bad.
I think it was Big O time. He said, look, you're going to have to get out of the booth, whatever. Like, we can't have us getting beat like that. You're the bad luck guy. Well, because we had been beat by him a little bit, Well, that next week, we're on the road, and I can't remember where we were. I want to say Fairview or somewhere like that.
Yeah, Fairview or Douglas right after that.
Well, we get down there, and, I'm just there to help, We go in. We're in the field house, and he's got all the coaches in another row, and Big Red was in there with us because Big Red was down there too for whatever reason. He went into chewing everybody's butts out about, how it's the coach's responsibility to get these kids ready to play. Because that kind of went into that game. I think a little bit of a big head against Scottsboro. But I can remember that butt chewing, and I remember looking at Big Red. I was like, I wonder if he's like fixing to come at us, because he's letting everybody in there have it. And I'm nervous wreck. I'm thinking, I'm fixing to get a butt chewing, and I'm just here to help Charlie. That was Rose. But it's a good lesson, for anybody that's a leader, because you may be the head coach, but you got these assistants. They're responsible for that too.
Yeah.
It ain't the leaders are responsible for getting the kids ready to play.
Well, that goes back to like the film room. If you were any kind of football player and you cared about what you were doing, you already knew what plays you were waiting on to come up when you watch film.
Yeah, what you did.
You already had them in your mind.
Knew.
You knew whatever coming up, and you were like, "Shit, I hope they get by." And I can remember times where it gets to that play, and I'm like, "Shit, there it is. I didn't touch it." Yeah. And it goes to the next play, then Coach Lyle goes, run that back one more time. I'm like, oh, my God, it's off. and then he's like, God, Griner, damn it, what are you doing? I'm like, damn. Coach, I don't know. all I got by with that one. But I'm talking about film room. Do you remember when we've mentioned this a few times on here, but it's probably mentioned every episode. You remember when Michael Benora got hit at home?
I remember it.
You remember how many times we watched that on film?
A couple.
Coach Lyle said, damn! You didn't see it coming? He was trying to find the football. Oh, my God. That's probably one of the hardest hits I can remember.
It was pretty nasty.
Is that Hartzell? Was it Hartzell? Is that who it was?
I don't think we were playing Hartzell. I think we were playing Hartzell.
Yeah,
I just remember them dragging him, literally dragging his feet, dragging off the fit over here. And he could not catch his breath. We've all been there, but man, it was just one of those that was on spotlight for everybody to see.
Yeah, he was out in the middle of everything. He was out back there by himself. And so it was just kind of like you said.
He snapped on punt. He was the first one down there. Yeah. Big mistake.
Yep.
I bet he tried to be the second man down there. Hey, one of y'all get down there and call me, let me know how it is. I'll come on down after that.
What about in the film room we played Mark, you and Jeff might remember we played Austin that little spring game before. And Coach Lawley, how he's got that clicker. And Carlton dropped back and he's pass coverage. That guy streaking down the sideline, he broke. He slammed that clicker down. He said, that's the reason that kid can sign anywhere in America. Right now, one play. All I got to do is show him that one play.
Coach Lawley.
Y'all remember that? Yeah.
When Coach Lawley came up here, he told us, I don't remember if it was on camera, I think it was, he said, That's the single greatest play I've ever seen
never forget
in
it.
football.
I agree with
He
you.
said, I told the coaches on the sideline when that happened, and I said, you just saw greatness.
Yeah.
Yep.
You just saw greatness. He said, that is, to this day, he said, Auburn, Canadian League, all that stuff, he said, that is the single greatest play I've ever seen. And what happened on the play were the cornerbacks, the corner on that side got confused about what the call was. So that's why he wasn't with the receiver.
Right.
They were looking around trying to get the call, and they snapped the ball. And Carlton recognized it and run it
He just
down,
took
broke
over,
it up. He was like, that's the single greatest play I've ever seen.
That dude was
He was
something else.
He was something else. That's for sure. He was good. I mean, he could do anything. I mean,
I remember his first day up here, we was all in the gym. He come in there with no shirt on. And he went up and dunked a basketball. He went up and dunked a basketball, and his hand slipped. He fell and hit his head on the floor, and y'all run over like it was your children. God, no!
What was funny?
I'm like, hell, I turned my ankle the day.
That is true, and I'll never forget this because I remember when it happened. We're all looking at it. I was like, man, he's
Coaches slid their knees on the floor.
after it all got done. Of course, Jeff's one of probably top 2 or 3 best storytellers that's ever been that I've
I
ever
mean, on camera you said that.
I did, and I'll
appreciate
admit
that.
it. But I remember him. I remember him telling the story to somebody, and I remember him hollering and come slowly his voice, "My baby!"
It got. Nobody did anything. It hurt him, man. He laid there for a minute. I remember that when he first came. Then I remember we was in the field house. It was like the first week. And Coach Lally was in one of his last sets of bench, around 400, probably 380, 400, something like that. And we're all working out. And Coach Lally did his last rep, probably about four reps, racked it. We're all looking around like, God, that man's strong. Carlton walked up there, laid down, and all you hear is the plates. Da-ding, 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 da-ding. We're like, wow, is he the same age as
We're
us?
gonna get to play with this guy.
I
He's
remember
on
him
our team.
maxing on the bench, and I don't know why it ended up. I was on one side, and I can't remember who was on the other, but I remember Coach Lawler was spotting him, and I remember him saying, "Cooper, get on the knee." I was like, "Gosh, it's like 450 pounds. If he gets on him, I hope to God y'all get it off of him. I'm just gonna try to pull his plates off as quick as I could." But like he was different. They ain't no question.
He could read the offense too.
He knew his stuff.
Yeah, he knew his
Coach
stuff.
Lally even said, he said Carlton's mind, as far as what we did defensively, was as far as further than anybody else.
if you remember in that '96 Scottsboro game, I don't know if we did it at the beginning, but at some point in time, I think we swapped him to play in Sam instead of Mike to help control the option to the strong side. If you remember, I can't remember who the Sam was at that time, but whoever the Sam was, we moved.
I'm gonna say it might have been
It
Ant.
was Ant.
We moved him.
Doug was the wheel.
We moved Ant to Mike, and Carlton wound up playing the Sam backer because I think that Holt was coming down on him from that wing spot, and Ant couldn't handle him. I mean, Ant was a smaller guy at that time,
Right.
and Ant was having trouble handling him, and so Carlton was so big and strong and fast that when Holt come down on him, he could take him on and hold his ground if nothing else. And so, and that's how smart he was. He was able to make that transition. And I think we did that actually during the game, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it even at halftime or something. And he never missed a beat.
I remember we were practicing through the week. He's still out there, and we were going through our defensive scheme for that week, and we were going with something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but the call was 8-ball. We were running 8-ball, and you can probably draw it up and talk us through it. But beside the point, like we're going through and we're adjusting, and we're still in 8-ball. And he said, "Hold up, Coach." He said, "What if we do this, this, and this?" And he come up with something. And Coach Lawler said, "We'll call it 8-dog." He said, "Can y'all tell the difference between 8-ball and 8-dog?" And sure enough, like he made an adjustment, but it wasn't me or Jeff or anybody else. You don't make them kind of adjustments. I do, but it was that's a good idea, so we changed it.
Y'all like Carl?
Yeah,
I remember that.
yeah.
And he said, "You know what, Carlton, you're right." I remember that. I really remember. I was going to bring it up, but I wasn't sure if you remember that. And I remember that now.
Well, and I can remember being at Saks. I can't remember exactly what he was trying to do something like kind of on the fly, and we had lined up and we would run R, and there was a certain play we ran, and the guy at the wing automatically goes in motion. Well, he was going to try to do it from wings, and the way it worked out, we would have 2 people in motion. Of course, everybody here's watch Friday Night Lights, and there's movies backup. Well, that's me. I'm Cervantes' backup. I'm standing there, and you could just tell he's thinking something. He sent it in. He did, and I said it, and I shouldn't have. I said, Coach, we can't do it. And he ignored it. I said, Coach, we can't do it. You're going to have both of them in motion. And like he thought about it for a second. Timeout! He called timeout, gathered them up, and realized what he had done. He sent them back out there, but he looked at me, and he did a double take like, you're right, but don't you ever question me. But it was funny.
Mind your own damn business.
Yeah. You let me make my mistake. Yeah.
I backed Carlton up. We was at McCauley. Of course, who thinks they're going to play backing him up? He tweaked his damn ankle or something in the middle of the damn game. And they're like, Grider. I'm like, water. They're like, Grider. I'm like, water. They're like, no, damn it, Grider. I was like, oh, shit. So I ran out on the field. Schrader's giving me his damn sign. I'm standing there looking. I'm like, I wish I'd have paid a little more attention. Let's see, we got a damn. Doug Clark came out there and put his arm on. He said, "You ain't got a fucking clue, do you?" I said, "Nope." He said, "I got you." He come in there and called whatever the hell he wanted to. We went 3 and out, forced a punt. I come back to sideline, Carlton went back in. So, well, hell, we held him anyway. You remember when Lila got you in practice that day on what you had on pass coverage?
Yeah, he got in the film room, too.
He baited you in.
He said, ain't that right, LeRoy? And I said, yes, sir. And he slammed it. He said, no.
But when he asked you, he said, you had flats or something, right?
Yeah, and I said, yes.
He said, you got flats, don't you? You said, yes, sir. He said, hell no, you didn't. Well, damn, you baited him into it.
I asked my striker about that. I've hit Ty with that before, and Ty was about an 8th or 9th grader, and he'd do it. He'd throw it back. Hell no. Oh, yeah, I tell him, that seemed like, and I got cracked up when Coach Lawler was here last time. He was talking, everybody knows, ain't nobody that was through the Lolly era that didn't think that the linebackers were his babies. Like, that was his bunch. Well, he got in here and he got talking about pro ball and this and that. He's like, well, secondary dictates everything. And I couldn't say it, but I was thinking, dang, Coach, all we ever heard was linebackers were the greatest thing ever in North Jackson. But I remember him like setting them up, and he'd be answering their questions for them. He'd get to Ryan. It was a trick question.
Yeah.
I'll never forget, like you was talking about the adjustments for Scottsboro. We always practiced for them to line up the Wildcat and this was the old Wildcat, not the Wildcat offense that Miles On made famous. That had their tackles and everybody split out. And I can remember we was going through adjustments, and I remember Ryan was like, he'd shake out.
Yeah.
He'd shake me out. You can tell Ryan didn't know. He said, LeRoy, I knew I'd have to draw you a picture. Oh, no.
Yeah, I remember.
Well, we had that. Remember, we always had that Aggie call.
Yeah.
Well, after that, you just hear random people start hollering Aggie. Some people didn't even know what the hell it meant. They tried to make it sound like it. Aggie. Ain't no damn Aggie. Shit.
Yeah, that was when I had two wide outs, out wide, and we would bounce the Sam out. Mm-hmm. And I remember Josh Myers would play defensive end. This is where we first got broke into it. But Josh would drop back and play linebacker because I rode with Josh, so me and him talked quite a bit about it. But I remember him dropping back, and he always liked it because he got
rode with him in practice.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good stories there. I always rode with Chad Reed to practice. That was my older guy that I rode with. On the way home, we'd go by Terry Rich's house in his Bronco, and I'd lay the seat. I went back and blow the horn. He'd go, quit! She'd be out there practicing. Major Ed, she'd wave at him. He'd say, quit! Every day, we'd start going down the heat, say, don't do it. He'd start trying to block me. I'd say, I'm not going to do it every day. As soon as we get there, I'd hit that seat, go back, Bronco. She'd be like, hey, Chad. Every day.
I remember, this would have been my 9th grade year because you weren't old enough to drive and Chad wasn't either. I remember Josh taking all 3 of us.
Yeah, Josh Myers took me home.
That was in the early, right after we'd moved up, I remember that.
Speaking of vehicles, Were you ever aware? I don't know if any of the coaches ever knew. Y'all remember the sand pile was in the parking lot? Y'all ever know that Jason Hill jumped out in his Geo Metro?
There's probably a lot of things that happened that we didn't need to know.
That little white Geo Metro.
Yeah,
This is where those stories come to life.
Remember Jason Hill's a big guy and drove that little Geo
Yes,
Metro.
yes.
We was outside one day and they were talking about it. He talked real soft. They were like, somebody said, "That Geo, you ought to jump at." He said, "I can make it." They was like, "You think you can make it in that Geo Metro?" He said, "I think it'll jump it." He got in that Geo Metro and drove down there towards the band room. Of course, you just turn it right around. It's so little. He come across that parking lot, and we're all like, "Oh shit, he's gonna do it!" He hit that damn sand hill. Was you out there, Ryan?
I think it was.
Damn sand went everywhere. I was like, hell, it's gonna kill him, out here in the parking lot. He hit the top of that sand hill, and Geo Metro come out the other side. The windshield wipers was off. Sand was going everywhere. And he just pulled it back up and got out. Everybody's damn heart was racing. Like, all right, let's go back in. We went back to the field house. But he said he sold that car like years later, and the people that were going to buy it pulled a floor mat back, and there was sand all in it. I wonder where the sand come from.
I'll tell a Carlton story right quick before the card runs out. So, first time I'd ever seen him, me and Michael Buchanan's in the weight room working out. And this is like a couple years after I'd graduated. And, at that time, that's probably the strongest I've ever been. And Buchanan, he was real strong too. And we were deadlifting. We had 500 pounds on there. And, we were trying to max. Carlton just walks up, says, "You care if I get one?" I was like, "No, go ahead." Street clothes, everything. Just bends down, picks it up, locks it out, looks at himself in the mirror, just drops it from the waist, and just walks out of the field house, don't say another word. And, what do you say to that? We're maxing, and that would be his warm-up weight. It was unbelievable.
I remember him. They capped us that year in the leftathon. I want to say 600 on the squat.
It was 6.
And I
I
remember.
don't know.
Well, we were done well before that. but-
You capped yourself.
yeah, I capped myself in 4.
My ability capped me.
But I can remember him squatting down there, and it was just like anybody with good, healthy knees with no weight. He's got 600 pounds in there, Coach Lawson. I remember him kind of mumbling to one of the coaches, "I just wonder how high he could go." And there's really no telling how high he could have went.
I'll tell you somebody that will shock you. Josh will know who I'm talking about. And he's seen it in person, but somebody that's got chicken legs that can squat 500 was Rayshon Patton.
Yeah.
That's his legs were, they look like chicken legs, but he could squat 500 pounds with.
He never weighed over 200
No.
pounds either.
I tell you, I felt like Sean Hyatt was like that too.
Yeah.
Sean was a daggone beast in the weight room.
Yeah, but Sean's legs were. I'm
Yeah,
telling
he
you,
looked bit more meat.
Rayshon was little. His legs were small.
Sean was probably about 155 pounds.
We need to get Sean in on the show.
Yeah, he's living in Mississippi now, I think. But he's one of the
You
best
talking about?
all around dudes.
You talking about? I was going to say you talking about a good dude, Sean Hyatt.
Oh, yeah.
Probably is.
When they did that
He
first
ranks
Hall of
up there
Success
real
and
high.
put him in, I was super pumped just
Yeah.
because, he is a good dude, always has been.
He was like, even when he was younger, he was like a well-spoken man as a kid.
Yeah, he was an adult long before he was
Right,
right,
yeah.
an adult.
His
We were
was
always
really
pretty good friends, and he had come in, it's probably been, I don't know, it's probably been 5-6 years ago. When him and Justin Thomas went to eat, and we sit there and we talk.